Good evening and welcome to the April 26, 2022 regular meeting of the Gaston County Board of Commissioners. My name is Chad Brown. I serve as the chairman of the board as well as the commissioner of the Riverbend Township. I would like to welcome our viewers and thank Spectrum Cable and AT&T for making it possible for our citizens. For our television and live stream audience, I would like to present our Gaston County Commissioners beginning on my far right.
Tracy Philbeck, Dallas Township.
Good evening, I'm Ronnie Worley, South Point Township.
Bob Hovis, Crowders Mountain Township.
Good evening, Tom Kigger, Gastonia Township.
At this time, I will ask you to please rise and take off any caps. The invocation will be given by Commissioner Hovis and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Kieger.
Please bow with me. Gracious Father, we come to you tonight to do the bidding of the county, to take care of our businesses, to continue to provide all the services and protect our citizens of Gaston County. Father, we ask your guidance, we ask your wisdom, and most of all, we ask that we be your servants, and we ask that in Christ's name. Amen.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda will be public hearing. The Gaston County Commission will now take citizens' comments on public hearings, zoning map change. The Commission will now take citizens' comments on several public hearings. Comments will be taken on the following issues: zoning map change Z22-08, zoning map change Z22-09, zoning map change Z22-10, zoning map change Z22-11, zoning map change Z22-12. We will appropriate incentives and authorize Gaston County to enter into an economic development agreement with Edgewood Industrial Phase 1 Owners LP. Authorize eligibility for the Osage Mill Apartments LLC redevelopment project to participate in Gaston County's local investment grant. Before we begin, let me outline the rules of procedure for the hearings. Citizens wishing to make comments will be recognized by the chair and then requested to step to the microphone for their comments. Citizens will state their name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. All questions shall be directed toward the chair for response. The chair shall rule on all points of order during the hearing. Do I hear a motion to go into the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hovis, seconded by Commissioner Worley. All in favor? We are now in public hearing, Madam Clerk. The Gaston County Commission will take comments on public hearing zoning map change Z22-08, Debbie Murray, the applicant. Our long-range planner with Building and Development Services will provide an overview, and once she has completed her comments, citizens' comments will be taken. I will now ask Ms. Jamie Kimbergaloo to please state what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Z22-08 is a request to rezone parcel ID 306699 located at 335 Chestnut Ridge Road from the R1 Single Family Limited Zoning District to the R2 Single Family Moderate Zoning District. The applicant is Debbie Murray. The parcel is located west of Bessemer City and north of Kings Mountain. The aerial map shows a mixture of housing types in the area as well as vacant land. The current lot is vacant as it was recently subdivided. The subject parcel is just south of existing R2 zoned properties. And as we zoom out a little further, we can see additional R2 zoned communities to the north of the subject property. This map shows which property owners were notified with information about tonight's public hearing. And this slide shows the property owner's information. Staff has not received any inquiries about this request. The future land use designation for this parcel is rural. Rural areas are characterized as having plenty of open space with homes on large lots that are set back from the roads that they front on. There are no funded transportation projects in the immediate vicinity of the site. There is, however, an unfunded minor road improvement to Chestnut Ridge Road that is included on the MPO's CTP, or the Comprehensive Transportation Plan. The property is in a residential area, and staff finds that the proposed residential use is consistent with the Comprehensive Land Use Plan and is in harmony with the surrounding area. The Planning Board unanimously recommended approval of this request at the regular meeting earlier this month. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any citizens wishing to make comments on this issue at this time? Seeing none, are there any questions from the Board of Commissioners? If there are no additional comments, I will declare the public hearing closed. I will now ask for, before we proceed, let me ask the county attorney to provide comments regarding the planning board's recommendation. Mr. Stetzer,
Do you wish to vote on that first?
we'll wait on you to give the consistency statement, and then we will.
Yes, sir. This would be, approval of this would be consistent with the future land use plan. The future land use designation for the parcel is rural. Rural areas are characterized as having plenty of open space with farmstead housing and opportunities for agribusiness. Residential homes tend to be on larger lots and are set back from the roads they front on. The proposed zoning change from R1 to R2 and the proposed residential use is consistent with the comprehensive land plan and consistent with the surrounding area.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Let me start before we get to there. The planning board voted unanimously 5-0 on this particular issue. Motion made by excuse me, Commissioner Philbeck, seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion?
Your question, you said 5-0?
5-0 it says here on mine.
Okay, they only had 5 people at the meeting? Okay, thank you. Right.
Yep.
All those in
Yes.
favor?
Once again, the motion was made by Commissioner Philbeck to approve the motion made by the planning board recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any other further questions? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. The County Commission will take citizens' comments on public hearing zoning map change Z22-09. Shirley Cobb, the applicant. Again, our long-range planner, Ms. Kimbergaloo, will start with her comments. And Ms. Kimbergaloo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Z22-09 is a request to rezone parcel ID 306698, located at 333 Chestnut Ridge Road, from the R1 Single Family Limited Zoning District to the R2 Single Family Moderate Zoning District. The applicant and owner is Shirley Cobb. The parcel is also located west of Bessemer City and north of Kings Mountain. This parcel is just south of the last parcel we reviewed. The aerial photography shows vacant land and a mixture of housing types. The current lot is also vacant as it was part of the same subdivision. The subject parcel is just south of a neighborhood zoned R2, and as we zoom out a little further, we see another R2 community just north of the subject property. This map shows everyone who was notified with details of the request and the public hearing, and staff did not receive any calls or inquiries about this request either. These are the property owners of the parcels highlighted in the last map. The future land use designation of this parcel is also rural. The property is in a residential area, and staff finds that the request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and is in harmony with the surrounding area. If approved, any uses allowed in the R2 zoning district would be permitted as the ordinance allows. The planning board also unanimously recommended approval of this request at their last meeting. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any citizens wishing to comment on this issue at this time? Seeing none, any questions or comments from the Board of Commissioners? If there are no additional comments, I will declare the public hearing. Before I proceed, let me ask County Attorney Mr. Stetzer to please give us the Planning Board's recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This, too, is consistent with the future land use plan. The future land use designation for the parcel is rural. Rural areas are characterized as having plenty of open space with farmstead housing and opportunities for agribusiness. Residential homes tend to be on larger lots and are set back from the roads they front on. The proposed zoning change from R1 to R2 and the proposed residential use is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and consistent with the surrounding areas.
Make a motion to accept.
Before we have that, let me, the Planning Board voted unanimously again to approve 5-0.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Keeger, seconded by Commissioner Philbeck. Any other questions? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. The County Commission will now take citizens' comments on public hearing zoning map change Z22-10, Roman Gonzalez, applicant. Again, the long-range planner, Ms. Kimbergeloo, will please start with your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Z22-10 is a request to rezone parcel ID 163330, located on Tryon Courthouse Road. The applicant and property owner is Roman Gonzalez, and he is requesting to rezone 1.14 acres from the R1 Single Family Limited Zoning District to the R3 Single Family General Zoning District. This parcel is north of Bessemer City, and the aerial map shows areas of vacant land, traditional site-built homes, manufactured homes, and an industrial site to the rear of the property. The subject parcel is across the street from existing R2 zoned properties and abuts an I3 zoned property. As we zoom out, we can see an existing R3 zoned neighborhood on Acre and an R2 zoned neighborhood off of Tryon Courthouse and Pine Springs. This map shows which properties were notified with information about the request and with the details for tonight's public hearing. Staff has not received any calls or inquiries about this request. These are the property owners that were notified with details about the request and the hearing. The future land use designation for this parcel is also rural. Rural areas are characterized as having plenty of open space with farmstead housing and opportunities for agribusiness. Residential homes tend to be on large lots and are set back from the roads that they front on. There is one funded transportation project to the north of this site. However, the MPO has stated that the project will not impact the subject site. The funded project is for a sidewalk connectivity from Pine Springs Drive to Tryon Elementary School. The CTP also shows bike facility improvements along Tryon Courthouse Road as well. The surrounding area is heavily residential with a mixture of housing types. The proposed residential use is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and in harmony with the immediate vicinity of the subject area. Staff finds that the application is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and in harmony with the surrounding area. The Planning Board made a motion to not recommend approval, and this motion was approved 4-1. Staff has not received any calls or inquiries on this request. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any citizens wishing to comment at this time on this issue? Seeing none, are there any questions from the Board of Commissioners? Mr. Philbeck.
Does it state why they disapproved it?
So during the meeting, they felt that the proposed use of the applicant did not match what was already existing on the road. Staff shared that the proposed use was to have a single-wide manufactured house moved onto the lot because there are already double-wide manufactured homes on the same street. They felt it didn't match the area.
They're already double wides,
Yes, sir.
and this is a single wide.
Yes.
Hold on.
Let me come back to you. Let me ask a question for,
Yeah, you gotta explain that. Okay. I don't know what Skeet is gonna offer. I think we've got the brains down there already, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
I would totally agree with that statement.
What am I missing?
I-
Because staff says, or our staff says this is consistent. The planning board voted 4-1, and they're saying the single wide doesn't, which is it a trailer or modular?
The proposed use is he wanted to move his manufactured home onto this new lot that he has purchased.
And the only difference is it's single wide when all the other ones are double wides.
Yes.
I'll vote to approve that.
okay, hold on,
That's just,
before we do that.
I'm good.
Before we do that, are there any other comments that's wishing to come from this board at this time? Commissioner Worley?
No, I'm sorry, no.
Since
with the vote.
there are no additional comments right now, I need to let Mr. Stetzer read the planning board's recommendation, and then we can go after that. Mr. Stetzer?
Can I finish my comment?
Yep.
I do want to make this statement. I do think this board historically has been a strong property rights advocate. It's their property. It is within the use. I think that should be approved. Thank you.
I'll add something.
Mr. Keeger?
I've got to agree with that. I just think of a regular neighborhood you drive through. There's a 1,800 square foot home and there's a 2,800 square foot home. There's a 2-story tri-level and a ranch. If it's modular, I just, like Mr. Philbeck said, we side to err on the behalf of the property owner. So I'll be voting that way.
Why don't we let Mr. Stetzer read it, and then we can change it after. Mr. Stetzer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, let me close the public hearing, now you can speak.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. The planning board recommended and said this was inconsistent with future land use plan. Future land use designation for the parcel is rural. Rural areas are characterized as having green rolling hills and plenty of open space with opportunities for agribusiness. Residential homes tend to be on larger lots and set back from the roads they front on. The proposed zoning from R1 to R3 and the proposed residential use is inconsistent with the comprehensive land use plan and inconsistent with the surrounding areas that would allow for more non-residential uses than what is currently allowed.
I'll make the motion to go the other way.
We will ask for a motion to be amended, a motion to be
You just have to make the
approved.
motion.
Motion, because Commissioner Keeger's making the motion to
I'll
approve.
second.
Seconded by Commissioner Philbeck. Any other discussion?
We're approving the use, not the planning board's recommendation.
That's correct. Everyone good with that? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to read the future land use plan consistency statement.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The future land use designation for the parcel is rural. Rural areas are characterized as having plenty of open space with farmstead housing and opportunities for agribusiness. Residential homes tend to be on larger lots and are set back from the roads they front on. The proposed zoning going from R1 to R3 and the proposed residential use is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and consistent with the surrounding areas. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Now the county commission will take citizens' comments on public hearing zoning map change Z22-11. Brandy Lewis applicant. Once again, I will take the long-range planner, Ms. Kimbergaloo, if your comments when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application Z 22-11 is a request to rezone parcel 302626, located at 202 Humphrey Boulevard in Gastonia, from the R1 Single Family Limited Zoning District to the R2 Single Family Moderate Zoning District. The applicant and property owner is Brandy Lewis. The subject parcel is south of Gastonia's city limits. The aerial photography shows vacant land and a mixture of housing types. The subject property abuts R2 zoned properties as well, and as we zoom out, we see more R2 zoned properties and some R3 properties and communities. This map shows which property owners were notified for the public hearing. Staff has not received any calls or inquiries about this request. And this slide shows the information of all of those property owners that were notified. This property is a total of 18.71 acres. It is located in the southwest scenic area of our county. Key issues for citizens in the area include preservation of open space and existing conditions while allowing low to moderate growth. Staff believes that the proposed use and the application as presented is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. The planning board also unanimously recommended approval of this request.
Thank
That
you, ma'am.
concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Any citizens wishing to make comment at this time on this issue? Seeing none, are there any questions from the Board of Commissioners? Seeing none, I will now declare the public hearing closed. Mr. Stetzer, if you'll please read a consistency statement from the Planning Board recommendation, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you heard, the Planning Board was unanimous in recommending approval of this. This is consistent with future land use plan. Future land use designation for the parcel is rural community. Rural communities may not serve a purpose other than providing homes while still maintaining a neighborhood look and feel. The proposed zoning going from R1 to R2 and the proposed residential use is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and adjacent zoning.
Thank you, sir.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Philbeck, seconded by Commissioner Kieger. All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. County Commission will now take zoning comments for public hearing, zoning map change Z22-12, Stephen Davidson. Again, our long-range planner, Ms. Gambergaloo, thank you for your help tonight, young lady, by the way.
Absolutely.
We'll now take your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Z22-12 is a request to rezone parcel 175088, located at 107 Henderson Street, from the R1 Single Family Limited Zoning District with US and CH overlays to the C1 Light Commercial Zoning District with US and CH overlays. This parcel is just under 1 acre and is owned by Mr. Ronald Bennett Jr. The applicant is Stephen Davidson, who is leasing the commercial building from Mr. Bennett. The property is just north of Mount Holly's city limits. The aerial photography shows vacant land, residential properties, Mountain Island Charter School, and the Mount Holly Fire Department. The subject property has a single-family residence on the lot with a commercial building on the rear side of the lot. The commercial building was built on the lot prior to county adopting a zoning ordinance, and this created a non-conforming situation. The subject property is zoned residential, and there are 2 commercially zoned properties nearby. As we zoom out, we see more zoning districts, including R2, RMF, and some industrial zoning. While Lucia Riverbend is zoned residential, there are several existing commercial businesses in the area. These are the parcels that were notified with information about the request and the public hearing. And these are the property owners of those parcels. Staff did not receive any calls or inquiries about this request. The parcel has an existing commercial building on the property. The parcel is located in what the comprehensive land use plan calls a gateway center. Gateway centers are specifically located along major transportation routes and are meant to capture the attention of those entering the county. The comp plan also notes that this area has the potential for suburban development. Key issues for this area include increasing job opportunities while still maintaining the rural feel of the area and increasing commercial opportunities for the community. The existing structure is considered to be an existing non-conforming structure. Since there has not been any commercial activity in the building for more than 6 months, any new commercial use would have to be in compliance with the UDO. Any proposed uses for the structure will still have to go through a full site plan review with our land use administrator and our plan reviewers. Just because a use is allowed in a zoning district does not mean it can automatically move forward and start running its business. Any new uses and tenants will have to go through a full site plan review and show how the proposed use will meet any supplemental requirements in the UDO and pull all necessary permits. Staff feels that the request is consistent with the vision of the comprehensive land use plan. Rezoning the property will bring the commercial structure into compliance and still allow for the residential structure on the property to be in compliance as well. Rezoning the property will also allow for commercial activity to resume in this structure. The planning board unanimously recommended approval of this request. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Any citizens wishing to make comment at this issue at this time? Please step and name and address for the record, please, sir.
Hello, I'm Stephen Davidson. I'm the applicant. My address is 225 North Centurion Lane in Mount Holly. Okay, so as mentioned, I am the applicant. I am leasing the building from Mr. Bennett, and my plan is to open a custom golf cart shop in that area. We are 2 miles away from Mountain Island Lake, or less than 2 miles, and we have a lot of prominent neighborhoods in the area where people are purchasing golf carts for the neighborhood to drive to the beach, or not to the beach, to the pool clubhouses, to the lake for boating and those type of things. So it's a pretty good fit for that area, and we seem to have a lot of good public response. And otherwise, there's the building is sitting there, and Mr. Bennett recently inherited it. Are you going to speak on it too? Okay. He recently inherited it. The building's been sitting there unused since he inherited, and you know, really he's got a big, nice garage that can't be used at this point because it is zone residential. And you know, it doesn't make sense for him to put a bunch of money into a building, and you know, for the neighborhood's sake, I think that they really appreciate, and I've had some feedback from other neighbors that they like the idea of me coming in and fixing the building up so that we can, you know, kind of better the area.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments from any citizens at this time? Seeing none, any questions from the Board of Commissioners? Seeing none, I would
ask-
Commissioner Worley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's Mr. Davidson, correct?
Yes.
How many employees do you plan to have if you come back to the podium? Do you plan on employing and operating hours? What's your plans as far as
Yeah,
that?
I do plan to have employees. It depends on how well the business takes off, but as of right now, I foresee 5 to 10 employees easily. And then my operating hours will be your typical 9 to 5, 9 to 6, and then on Saturdays as well. Probably limited hours on Saturdays.
So you would also be having a retail space that customers would be able to come in, view golf carts, or will this be a completely custom operation? Folks would bring carts to you, or you're going to be
It would be
offering
more-
sales and service?
It would be sales and service. It would be 90% retail, or probably more of a 70-30 split retail service. Also, everything that we will be selling will be electric, so there will be no combustible engines, no loud engine repair going on nearby for the neighbors to have concerns with.
And one more, Mr. Chair.
Take your time.
And the parking there, you would make necessary improvements for parking to have how many parking spaces?
Yeah, so there's significant parking there. There's a lot that is closed in by the gate that you can barely see in this picture. And then in the front would be the customer parking, and we will put in handicap as well. But whatever parking requirements, there's sufficient area, and we will put in enough whatever is required.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. You can be seated. I will now declare the public hearing closed. I will now turn over to Mr. Stetzer for the recommendation from the planning board. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The planning board was unanimous in its recommendation to approve, and this was consistent with the future land use plan. The future land use designation for the parcel is Gateway Center. Gateway centers are meant to capture the attention of people entering the county for various reasons. These areas are specifically located along major transportation routes and carry the weight of introducing travelers to the county through the look, feel, and signage in the area. The proposed zoning and use is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan, as it would serve the purpose of a gateway center and would bring the existing commercial structure into compliance with the Uniform Development Ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Stetzer. Once again, this comes from the planning board as unanimously 5-0. Motion made by Commissioner Hovis,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Kieger. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Thank you, gentlemen. The County Commission will now take citizens' comments on public hearing to authorize eligibility for the Osage Mill Apartments LLC redevelopment project to participate in Gaston County's local investment grant program. I now call on Mr. Donnie Hicks, Economic Development Commission Director, will provide an overview. Once his brief overview he was stated and completed, his comments will be taken and citizens' comments will be taken. Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. We're here tonight to ask for incentives for the redevelopment of the Osage Mill. This board had previously approved the same package we're bringing to you tonight, but the developer has changed, and there's been some time since the original approval was made. So we felt like it was prudent to come back and ask you to reevaluate this and make sure you're still interested. This is an important project to Bessemer City. The City Council approved this a couple weeks ago. I was there with them. We have Josh Ross from the City of Bessemer City to talk about the importance of it to the city. If you've been to Bessemer City, the mill sits right in town, and it's a critical piece of their history and also their downtown. It also filled a need that we have that's similar to most all counties, and that's the lack of moderate income housing. And we're starting to get questions when we recruit projects about what are we doing for moderate income housing or workforce housing in the region. So the developers plan to redevelop the mill and turn it into 143 moderate income units, and that would help substantially. We're out of order, I got it. So we're, I know, I'm going with it. I'm hearing for the next one too. So
Thank you, Donnie.
I'm good, I know. So we're going to ask for some help to give them some incentives to redevelop the mill, because currently it's in a state of extreme disrepair to the point of being basically condemned. They'll come back and renovate it for this use. Not only will we have 143 units, you'll also have some community space that they'll make available, some outdoor space, and there'll be some commercial space that can be leased near the center city that they'll make available also. So it's basically the same plan we brought before. We think it still has the same merit. The need for this type of space has probably increased dramatically since the last time we were here. And that need for that type of space is not going to go away, and we have to find some way to address it. And for me, this is a great way to you take an underutilized property, renovate it. We're going to get a substantially greater amount of tax value out of it at some point. And then Bessemer City, it helps with the whole center city development, all the work that they've put in and around town.
Thank you. I was trying to throw you a curveball to see how you did,
got it.
just by that. Nobody got it but me and you.
Oh, I heard it, I heard it.
Are there any citizens that wish to comment on this public hearing at this time? Please come up and step your name and address for the record, please, sir. While he's coming, if anybody wants to know, I skipped over one and read the wrong one first, so I apologize.
Good evening, Chairman Brown, County Commission. My name is Josh Ross. My address is 330 Costner Drive, Bessemer City. I was actually going to come up here and explain a lot of the stuff that Donnie already mentioned, but I think he covered the project very well. I will say on behalf of Bessemer City, we're very excited about this project. Our City Council unanimously approved the resolution for this exact same incentive earlier this month for the project. This is a very transformative catalyst economic development project for Bessemer City that will have an impact that will affect existing residents, businesses. We're actually already seeing investment in downtown because of this project. And just to put it into perspective, the Osage Mill is roughly 50% of our downtown footprint. So this does have a very great opportunity to make an impact in Bessemer City. It also will help to address your next item that you'll speak about with additional investment coming to Bessemer City, like Donnie mentioned, and just appreciate your consideration for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Keeger.
Yeah, Donnie, when did this project, when did we first, I can remember, it seems
Yeah.
like ages ago over in the City Hall in Bessemer when this project was first talked about.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
2015.
15?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yep. And so we've had an entire switch of developers. I don't want to speak for Josh, but I think we feel very confident in the new group that's trying to take this on. I think they've done 36 buildings of this type before.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other citizens wishing to comment on this issue at this time? Seeing none, are there any questions from the Board of Commissioners? If there are no additional comments, I will declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion made by Commissioner Hovis to approve?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Worley. Any questions? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk.
Just one observation, Mr. Chair, if I may. The
Go ahead.
project, the new developer who's involved does have a very good track record and has done very similar projects and brought them all in pretty much on budget. Plus, at the same time, it's taken about another 3 months for them to go back and redo a lot of their structural work. There's more work to be done on the building because of the lack of opportunity to get to it in a timely manner. And their budget has probably gone up, I would say at least about 20% on the overall project. It's probably somewhere closer to 44 to 45 million versus the 38 million or 36 million that we originally discussed. And but I think their plans are to have in Mr. Skiba's hands sometime in the month of May the engineered drawings so that he and his staff can go over those and dot I's and cross T's so that they can actually start real work on this building. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner. We've already voted on it, I'm sorry. Just want to make sure y'all are aware of that. Keeping you honest. The next item, are there any revisions to the business agenda or any items need to be pulled at this time? So we're got the 85. I don't have it.
The one you skipped?
That was the one I skipped, the one we just went back to. B, F.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not very good tonight on my alphabet. The County Commission will take citizens' comments on public hearing, approve incentives pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 158-7.1 to authorize Gaston County to enter into an Economic Development Agreement, EDA, with the Edgewood Industrial Phase 1 owner, LP. I will now call on Mr. Donnie Hicks, Development Commission Director, will provide a brief overview. Once he has completed his comments, citizens' comments will be taken. Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. We're here tonight to talk about a major industrial development that will occur in Bessemer City. This is Trinity Capital Partners. This is the same group we brought to you a couple months ago that are building an 870,000 square foot building at the Delta Business Park. They've acquired land in Bessemer City. If you're familiar with Bessemer City, you go up Edgewood Road, and it'll be on the left-hand side. Southridge Business Park is on the right. And they want to not necessarily duplicate that building, but duplicate some more industrial space in the county. So they plan to build 4 buildings, as you can see on their attached site plan that I'm showing on the Elmo, for roughly 800,000 square feet. So to put that in perspective, if you take all the space that exists in Southridge Business Park today with Dole, Delandia, TOSAF, ADS, and Hunter Douglas, this will equal that same amount. And so it's a major investment for them. And we think that they're going to build at least 2 of the buildings at the same time, make sure those get leased, and then come back and build 2 more. It's more efficient to build them both at the same time. So we expect to get at least 600,000 square feet out of phase 1. So if you just take a minimum tax value of the building that has nobody in it, that's just partially completed, that's about $30 million. And so we would expect, obviously, as the building gets upfitted, there'll be more. So they're asking just for our standard incentive on the building alone. If there's a tenant that gets attached to it, they would have to come back and stand on their own for the next incentives. But this would incentivize the building and allow them to go out to the marketplace with the certainty they'd like to have on leasing and being competitive. I think that's more critical than even the last time I was here. There's more than 17 million square feet being built in the region. So the ability to go out and compete against that type of competition is critical. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Are there any citizens wishing to comment on this issue at this time? Seeing none, are there any questions from the Board of Commissioners? Seeing none, I will now declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion? Motion made by Commissioner Hovis, seconded by Commissioner Worley. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Next is the approval of the business agenda. Are there any revisions or business agenda items that need to be pulled at this time? I need to make an amendment. Go ahead, Commissioner Hovis, you can do that. And
Correct. We want to have one addition. It's item AM to the consent agenda. This is to engage with Duke Power to do some easement work on the tree line there in Southridge Parkway. And I'd like to just go ahead and add that to our current consent agenda as item AM.
I'll read it into the record, that way we have it, because Commissioner Hovis and Commissioner Worley are sponsoring. is to approve the Danger Tree Agreement to authorize a perpetual easement and right-of-way for Duke Energy Carolina LLC to parcel of PID 214142 Alliance Real Estate Southridge Business Park. So that'd be item AM. Do I hear a motion to approve the business agenda with item AM added to the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by
Second.
Commissioner Worley, seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any questions? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. The next item is citizens' recognitions. A portion of the board's agenda is set aside for the purpose of allowing citizens the opportunity to offer comments and suggestions. The comment period is not intended for the require the commission or staff to answer any questions or to provide a response. Questions requiring a response shall be answered as soon as possible through the county manager's office. Citizens' recognition will be limited tonight to 3 minutes. As I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. And the first citizen, I'm going to call you Miss Katie. I'm sorry, I don't want to. If you just pronounce your last name when you get up there, please. Thank you, ma'am. And I apologize in advance.
Chicken scratch, so I apologize. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, County Commissioners. My name is Kathy Gauger. My address is 11501 Withers Mill Drive, Charlotte, North Carolina. I currently serve as the president and CEO of Catherine's House, a transitional housing program in Belmont for women and children experiencing homelessness. I'm proud to report that Catherine's House has entered its 30th year of operation with a focus on providing supportive services while helping residents access housing resources. We know that housing solves homelessness. I come here today as a representative of the Continuum of Care, also known as the COC, to express gratitude for the commitment of the city and county that they have made to addressing the ongoing issue of homelessness in Gaston County through its participation in the Intergovernmental and Interagency Task Force, funding of the COC coordination, and investment for funds in the Tenant-Based Rental Assistance Program and Emergency Housing Voucher Program, to name a few. The city and county have proven themselves to be fierce and cooperative partners in ending homelessness. As an active member of the Gaston, Lincoln, Cleveland County COC, I benefit immensely from the weekly case coordination calls and monthly meetings where resources are shared. I have served as a nonprofit leader for over 20 years, focusing on those experiencing homelessness, and will say again that housing solves homelessness. Without resources, political will, and a collaborative approach to ending homelessness, we will continue to see the number of those experiencing homelessness rise. I am excited to see the financial support, energy, and expanded attention of Gaston County and the city of Gastonia on identifying and implementing strategies to end homelessness. So that is all in my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and I am going to make a comment behind this. You can go. I just wanted to make a comment about the homelessness. I want to make a comment about this board. I want to thank this board for the commitment that we gave to homelessness that was misinterpreted through, and not your, I want to let you know, you were spot on with your article. The headline read that we didn't do anything. And I will take exception to that because we have done something. We stepped up to the plate when no one else did. We stepped up to make sure that we made a difference just from what we were doing. We used a different pot of money, but to say that we didn't use any of the $250,000 that was put into that pot was very malice in some of the things that were said out of that. But your article was spot on. I'll tell you, the article did tell what it was, but the headline was not part of what was actually. So I want to read that in to make sure it's part of the statement tonight. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda with items A, M,
So
added?
move.
Motion made by Commissioner Philbeck, seconded by Commissioner Keeger. All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. The next item is legislative request agenda for 2022 session of the North Carolina General Assembly. Do I hear a motion to approve? Motion made by Commissioner Philbeck, seconded by Commissioner Worley. All in favor? It is unanimous. Madam Clerk. The next item on the non-consent agenda is Emergency Management Fire Services to dissolve the current Gaston County Fire Advisory Board and create a new Gaston County Fire Commission. Motion made by Commissioner Keeger, seconded by Commissioner Worley. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. The next item, is to amend the Gaston County ARPA Grant Project Ordinance 2021-264 to approve the appropriate project funding for the 4 water line extension projects, $1.277 thousand, and amend the budget to the grants manager position of $33,341. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Key,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Philbeck. Any discussion? Is all in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way I could make a motion to approve C, D, E, and F on the non-consent agenda?
If you want to make that motion, you get a second.
That's my motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Philbeck to approve C,
Second.
D, E, and F,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Hovis. All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Y'all just trying to throw me out of the way. The next item on the agenda is proclamations, commendations, certificates, and awards. This is to proclaim, I'm going to go all the way down. I'm just going to have you go ahead and read them all that you have. Commissioner Hovis, please step to the podium.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask Mark Lampier and anyone who'd like to join him up here with me as we proclaim the week of May the 15th through the 21st, 2022 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Gaston County. Whereas emergency medical services is an essential public safety service, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of physicians, nurses, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, law enforcement officers, telecommunicators, and others, and whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in any weather or any circumstances. And whereas access to quality emergency medical care dramatically improves the survival and the recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical service personnel engage in countless hours of specialized training and continued education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas the residents and visitors of Gaston County benefit daily from the knowledge of and the skills of the highly trained individuals of the Gaston County Emergency Medical Services, GEMS, and whereas this year GEMS is celebrating 40 years of service to Gaston County, established in 1982 as a convalescence ambulance provider. Today, GEMS operates advanced life support ambulances, advanced life support quick response units, basic life support ambulances, and community paramedic units, along with specialty rescue units and teams. Whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical service providers, perhaps now more than ever, by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now therefore be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims the week of May the 15th through the 21st, 2022 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Gaston County, and call upon all citizens to observe this period with appropriate events, programs, and activities. The board further congratulates Gaston County Emergency Medical Services, GEMS, on its 40th anniversary, adopted this 26th day of April 2022. And Mr. Lampier, I'd like to present that to you, and please make a comment.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we certainly appreciate this recognition from all of our team. They'll be excited to see this. We appreciate all the support that you give us. This has been an interesting couple of years for EMS.
Mark, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a, Jamie, step up there. Step right there. Oh, you guys come closer, but Jamie, step up here. It's funny how this came about for Emergency Medical Services Week. Jamie, I want to tell you thank you. Above and beyond the call of duty, young man got hurt over at the ballpark one night. Jamie was not working, and this kid was in, it was a pretty bad issue. I know you guys all heard about it, but I want to thank you for coming out and taking up what you do. As it goes above and beyond what happens, and I just want to thank you personally for that. So thank you so much for what you guys do, and I know you guys are professional, and I'm waiting on my Under Armour mark.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next proclamation is to proclaim the week of May the 1st through the 7th, 2022 as Correction Officer and Correction Employees Week in Gaston County. And I'd like for representatives of our Gaston County Jail and to come up. I have Deputy Chief Becky, is Becky here? Cawthorn, and Captain Scott Shirley up here with me to accept this proclamation. Whereas approximately 157 Gaston County correctional officers and correction employees are responsible for the daily supervision and the custody of approximately 600 offenders housed in Gaston County's prison system each month, forming a core element of public safety team for our community. And whereas correctional officers and correctional employees provide security, supervision, treatment services, and reentry efforts for offenders in the course of each year. And whereas although correctional jobs are extremely difficult and stressful, those who work in this profession perform their duties with dedication and great pride. And whereas the efforts of correctional officers and other correctional employees are critical in preparing offenders for a successful reentry into their communities. And whereas Gaston County is proud to recognize the dedication of its correctional officers and correctional employees. Now therefore be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims May the 1st through the 7th, 2022 as Correctional Officers and Correctional Employees Week in Gaston County and commend its observance to all citizens. This is adopted the 26th day of April, 2022. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Commissioners, I've been a correctional officer for 28 years, so I started in the jail, and I'm still in the jail. So it is near and dear to my heart. These people often go unrecognized. They're out of the public sight, so to me, they're heroes behind the walls. And a lot of times we fail to recognize what they contribute to our citizens and to the public safety of our citizens. So on behalf of all of our detention officers, we appreciate you recognizing us. Thank you.
Thank you, and we recognize.
Yeah.
Commissioner Worley.
Double dip.
Thank you. And chiefs, our remaining chiefs that are in the room are Thank you. This proclamation is to proclaim May 15 through 21, 2022 as Law Enforcement Week, and May 15th specifically as Peace Officers Memorial Day. And I'm going to read some statistics here in a moment that's going to talk about 600 officers that were killed in 2021. Well, unfortunately, we've already added 95 names to that list in 2022. So this just has a bigger impact, but I'll go on with the proclamation. Whereas it is important for the people of Gaston County and its municipalities to know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of our law enforcement officers and agencies. We applaud the members of those agencies for recognizing their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting people against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. Whereas our nation more than ever depends upon law enforcement as our first line of defense, the men and women of these agencies give of themselves day in and day out to preserve our homeland security. Whereas in 2021, 608 law enforcement officers across the nation and 24 from North Carolina alone died in the line of duty. Whereas the members of law enforcement agencies of Gaston County and its municipalities play a vital role in safeguarding the rights and freedom of our local citizen. Now therefore be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Commissioners proclaims May 15th through May 21st, 2022 as Law Enforcement Memorial Week in Gaston County and May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day. We join law enforcement officers nationwide in honoring their fallen comrades and urge Gaston County citizens to commemorate law enforcement officers past and present. Be it further resolved that the citizens of Gaston County recognize and appreciate the contributions made by their local law enforcement officers for handling the difficult situations they encounter on a daily basis. This to be adopted today, 26 April 2022. And there'll be a Peace Officers Memorial Day ceremony that'll be held that I hope one of you all can tell us about where that's going to be. The public is invited to that, and I hope that as many people as can come and attend. Chief, you'd tell us about where that program will be this year. Do you know?
That hasn't been released
Has it been
yet.
resolved yet?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank all the men and women of our sheriff and our police department. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
Somebody has to step up before we can clap.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I want to thank you for recognizing your law enforcement officers tonight. I think Commissioner Worley hit on some of the difficulties and the challenges that we face daily. This is not an easy profession. We see nationally, across the nation, law enforcement agencies that have, I would call, strained relationships with the citizens that they serve. And I'm often asked, how are things in Gaston County? And I'm proud to say your Gaston County law enforcement officers have forged amazingly strong relationships with our citizens, something that you can be very proud of. These relationships were not formed in a vacuum. They were created over years through professional service, effort, time. They were nurtured, and we work on them daily. And I don't think that would be possible without the support of the county commissioners, the county manager's office, and the citizens that we serve. So on behalf of the county police, all the men and women of the county police, I thank you for your support.
Well, I wanted to say thank you and tell your staff thank you and tell everybody at the jail and along the lines, because we make decisions that affect you daily. And as we make these decisions, we don't take it lightly because of what you do for us in protecting our county. We understand that our crime rate is somewhat low compared to other areas across the river, I guess would say, but it's still dangerous, and we recognize it, and we understand that you guys go out and do above and beyond. Yesterday I saw something that amazed me, and I want to talk about it, is when you guys go out and you're still in uniform, you're still public servants, and you're still out in the community doing things, whether you're taking pictures or you're doing things, when you're out there, people look up to you and how your professionalism. So I want to thank you to your staffs, and let them all know that we think about what your professionalism means to this board and every day, because we don't have the corruption that a lot of people think that we have around. We do it professionally, and I want to thank you guys for that, so thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Chad, could I add one
Please.
comment?
Mr.
I'd
Keegan.
also like to recognize that this goes out to all the municipal departments also.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also wanted to point out several important Gaston County proclamations for the month of May were adopted under tonight's consent agenda, and signed proclamations will be forwarded to those departments. And the reason being, next month we'll be concentrating on the budget as we want to get everything prepared. So the work session and the voting session will be for the budget. Is the reason we moved that around. So you have the proclamation proclaiming May 5th as 2022 as the day of prayer, proclaiming the week of May 1st through the 7th, Travel and Tourism Week, proclaiming the month of May as Older Americans Month, Foster Care Awareness Month, and Internal Audit Awareness Month. So some of you guys can get involved in that with the Older Americans Month. So thank you. There were no items pulled from the consent agenda. Appointments. Mr. Philbeck.
None at this time.
Commissioner Hovis.
I have one, Mr. Chairman, to Tourism Development and Advisory Board, appoint Monty Montalone.
Second.
Second made by Commissioner Keeger. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. We'll come back to you. Here he comes around the corner. Commissioner Keeger.
Just one, John Briotti reappointment to the Tourism Development Advisory.
So moved.
Seconded by Commissioner Philbeck. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Commissioner Worley. Thank you, sir. The next item is County Commissioner reports. Commissioner Philbeck. Commissioner Worley.
No report.
Commissioner Hovis.
I have none tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Keeger.
No, sir.
I have none. County Manager, oops, sorry. The County Clerk's report.
Full board appointment.
Yep. A little off tonight, it's all right.
Way off.
Mr. Philbeck's gonna vote no.
No, Ranlow Board of Adjustments has requested appointment by Keziah Simons. Keziah. Is there
I'll
a
make the motion.
motion made by Commissioner Keeger? Second by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As usual, as my history, I do not vote for ETJ appointments, and I'll say this every time. I think ETJ appointments are unconstitutional. You have people that live in ETJ, people that are making decisions for where they live, and they have no representation. So I will be voting no. That's my statement every time. Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It's 4-1, Madam Clerk. The next item is appointment for Keziah Simons, recommended by the Town Council for the Ranlow Planning and Zoning Commission. Can we use your statement already for the next one?
I'll make that motion again.
Motion made by Commissioner Keeger, seconded by Commissioner Hovis. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I
You're
do
good
not
with that,
support appointments to the ETJ because I think they're unconstitutional. Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? All in favor? All those opposed? 4-1, Madam Clerk. The next item is other matters. Are there any other matters that need to come before this board at this time?
Mr. Chairman,
Well, let's get, oh,
you got,
back.
Other matters.
We'll go ahead. We'll come back.
do it now?
Yep.
Okay. I have a couple. One, we need cameras out at Poston Park. And I would like, on the next agenda, to vote to put cameras out at Poston Park. We have a huge problem. My wife's car was broken into. My mother-in-law's car was broken into a couple weeks, a month? When did I talk to you about this? A month ago. There's other people has had their cars broke into. Last week, my daughter's boyfriend's car was broke into. Kind of wasn't mad about that, but I'm just kidding. But again, stole everything he had out of the car. There is a huge problem. I had talked to the county manager. I think it's flock cameras. And what that allows is to see actually the tags and things like that of these people going in and out of these parks. Without that, people can just do whatever they want because they can't catch them. And even if you just had a regular camera, it may show who did what. But let me give you an example. My wife's car was broke into 10 minutes from when her car was broke into. There was like $4,000 charged at a Home Depot in Charlotte. I don't know how you do that in 10 minutes, but it's a ring of folks, some kind of gang or something, that monitor these cars. So, and they just come in and they didn't break the window. They just punched something in the key. So when she came back, her door was locked. She unlocked it. Her stuff was laying neatly. You wouldn't even have known. So that's just her, but there's countless of other individuals. It's not safe down there without some type of cameras. And actually, I think it's is it the Lowell Police Department? Mm-hmm. The officer that I talked to said unless you have that flock camera, you're not going to be able to fix the problem. So that's one issue. Do you want to?
If I may, I was going to share with the board that we had this on our needs list because of previous occurrences. So it's my understanding from Public Works that they've completed the evaluation process for the cameras, and the plan was to include that in the budget recommendation. But I can talk with staff about expediting that if that's the pleasure of the board.
I would. I think that's something that needs to be done. Even without things that are being stolen, I just don't think it's safe. Second, I wanted to address an issue that came up this week. There was an item that was on the draft agenda about hospital board appointments. I won't go in all the detail on that, but I did want to provide some history of why I think, in my opinion, and I'm only one of 7, of why it's important for each commissioner to have their own appointment and keep it that way. If you look back at the cheat death fiasco, the only reason that was stopped is because you had commissioners that were appointing people to the hospital board. When you look at some of the issues with one of the CEOs, those issues would not have been fixed unless each commissioner had the power of the appointment to the hospital. When a lot of our citizens had complaints with care, and I think a true issue of the hospital paying $1 a year for all the property while sitting on literally close to $1 billion in savings and funds, that we wanted to negotiate a lease with the hospital. Instead of getting $1, we negotiated a lease to where citizens could get $21 million. We split that up between townships, gave that directly back to the citizens, and then we get, I think it's $750,000 a year. That would not have happened if each commissioner did not have an appointment to that board. And that's just something we don't need to forget. Matter of fact, we were told at the time, Commissioner Brown was here and Commissioner Keeger, we're not going to pay more than $1, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. It was really just like that, and told it was virtually impossible. But because we were able to appoint the board, we were able to influence that decision-making for the benefit of our citizens. I do think we have a good leader in our hospital right now, CEO Chris Peak. I think he's doing an outstanding job. I think we have a good board, hospital board. I think they're doing an outstanding job. But absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't care who you are or what organization you are. So I would strongly, as we look at doing things in the future, I would just strongly recommend that this board always provide a strong check from each commissioner in each township that is represented. I just wanted to state that, and that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Keeger.
Yeah, I echo everything that Mr. Philbeck said. I've been involved with issues for almost 25 years, and if we didn't have some strong members to see some of the issues that reflect the county's involvement. I will, though, in defense of the $1 a year, if people would research that, the reason it was $1 a year, I believe, was back when the county built that, there was an awful lot of debt, and the hospital agreed to take that debt over for $1 a year. And I guess the boards of commissioners back in the 80s or early 90s should have been a little more responsive when the debt was paid off, and maybe work with the hospital to get something done sooner than a more recent board did. But that said, I do, on other matters, very briefly, I want to make a mention of the upcoming tax rate that we'll set in the new budget. And I know I wasn't at the budget meeting that we had a few weeks ago, but I've heard things about it, and I do know that we just had a recent increase in our Standard & Poor? Moody's. I think from AA to AA plus. I don't ever want to do anything to jeopardize our credit rating, but that said, given the fact that we've received so much money this year from the federal government, it's going to implant some of the projects we have on the back burner. We won't have to use our regular property tax dollars to do some of these. And I'm just saying now, I'd be happy to sit down with staff. I've already talked with Matt a little bit. I want to see a fairly decent reduction. We don't know what next year will bring. You know, we may hear from staff that we should wait till next year when we have a revaluation. And that may be the way we go, but I don't think I could vote for a budget this year that doesn't have a tax reduction with a little bit of bite to it this time. And that's my 2 cents.
Any
Mr.
other
Chairman,
commissioners wish?
I just want to add
Commissioner Philbeck.
that I agree wholeheartedly. I won't support any budget that doesn't have a tax decrease. I do know next year we're looking at a reval. That's going to go up, they say, I think 25 to 30%. I think it would be disingenuous to have all the values go up and then say, oh, we're going to give you a tax increase. That's not even real. We were told last year that we were looking, we could do a tax cut this year. I think the citizens deserve that. We've got millions upon millions of dollars from the federal, state government. I do agree that's one-time money, but those monies are going to go on projects that we would have to pay for out of the property tax over time. So I just wanted to echo Commissioner Keeger, and again, whatever majority does, they do, but I'm with Commissioner Keeger on supporting a significant tax cut. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think anybody would wish to cut taxes as much as we could to make it zero if we wanted to, but the responsible factor that we have to make sure that we continue to make wise decisions on what we've been doing. The manager hasn't even presented a budget yet, which I find is a little different because we haven't even had her able to present a budget. And we're talking about cutting taxes and doing things. Nobody on this board would not, we'd all like to cut taxes. We'd all like to go out here and serve the citizens and try to be the hoorah of the day. But sometimes we need to listen to what is going to come out, like I said, because it hasn't been out yet. We have had several discussions through different budget meetings and stuff, so I think I look forward to hearing what the manager has as a suggestion. I think the one-time monies is certainly one-time monies, and we've seen how that's happened. We talked earlier about how the hospital had provided $21 million, and we were able to do things with it. So I would rather wait to hear what the manager's recommendation was before I jumped on a horse that said, let's go ahead and do it. I would love to cut taxes. Nobody on this board would not like to
We're going to have an
cut.
opportunity to come budget time.
But what I'm saying is, at some point, we need to let the manager present a budget, and then we can try to get back. I think that's just her due diligence that she needs for that. I'm going to go to the county manager's report, and then I'm going to read the statement from that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to draw your attention to a couple of documents that you have sitting there at your chair. One has the blue banner at the top. It is from Moody's that was just previously mentioned. The other is a summary of the bond rating increase and then a press release. So with that being said, I'll turn it back over to the chairman to share that news.
Thank you, Madam Manager. On Thursday, Moody's Investors Service announced that it was upgrading Gaston County's general obligation bond from AA1 to AA2. It is a limited obligation bond to AA2 to AA3. Gaston County currently has approximately $173 million in general obligation bond debt and $24 million in limited obligation bond debt. The upgrade now places Gaston County at the second highest available rating for both major rating services, Moody and Standard & Poor's. Standard & Poor's upgrading Gaston County's bond rating in April 2019, and the Gaston County have been working diligently since then to upgrade our Moody's rating as well. We are tremendously proud of this announcement. Gaston County Manager Dr. Kim Eagles said, "This upgrade is the result of wise budgeting decisions from our Board of Commissioners and years of diligent work on behalf of the staff." So thank you to the manager, to the staff, and every one of our employees, but also to this board for standing firm and making steadfast decisions to make sure that we do always look forward to the future, as we don't just plan for 1 year. We plan for 3, 5, 7, 10, 20, because we do have obligations that go beyond what our service limits may be. But I just wanted to read that. If you think about as we continue to strive to get this next rating, it has a lot to do with what's coming out of the coffers, as well as what we can be able to save in those as well. So I wanted to make sure we read that statement, and if you need a copy of that, Ms. Kara, I have that released for you if you don't have it. But so with that, I'll turn it back over to you for your report for the rest of the night.
That's all I had for tonight. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
County Attorney's report.
Mr. Chairman, I would just tell, now that you all have passed the rules of decorum changes that we proposed, Ms. Buff and I will work on the rules of procedure and make some changes proposed to you all, and I will seek some guidance from you all individually and collectively on what those changes should entail. And that's my full report.
This concludes our meeting for tonight. Our next work session is Tuesday, May 9th at 6 p.m. here in the Harley B. Gaston Jr. Public Forum Courthouse. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please telephone our clerk, Donna Buff, at 704-866-3196. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Commissioner Hovis, seconded by Commissioner Worley. All in favor? It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Good night, 417.